So welcome to the Mental Health Wellness Series. This is Dr. TK. So if you see me looking at two different places, whether you are watching this on the Facebook live stream and or on the computer, because I'm also going to upload it to YouTube, please feel free to comment, ask me questions, especially if you're watching live. But what I'm going to be doing is sharing with you the differences between healthy anxiety, unhealthy anxiety, and then I'm going to also share some awesome coping skills that you can implement right away. And I'm also going to be discussing for parents, especially if you or caregivers, if you have children in the home in which you are homeschooling, of course, and there's been a serious transition that I think a lot of parents, we feel the brunt of it. But we also, by talking to a lot of the adolescents, don't understand the big transition that they've had to make as well. I do want to address some of those issues. And so I first want to talk about healthy anxiety versus unhealthy anxiety. So the definition of anxiety is a mental and physical reaction to perceived threats. And I want to highlight perceived threats because perceived is how you see the world, okay? And sometimes our anxiety can be heightened if the situation looks familiar in comparison to maybe a previous situation. And sometimes, especially if it's traumatic, right, it can like automatically trigger you, and then all of a sudden you have all these symptoms. So healthy anxiety is linked to the fight or flight response. So just to give you some biological background about how your brain works, is the way your brain is wired is the way that your brain fires, okay? We're all born with a particular level of neurotransmitters in our brain. I ain't gonna get too technical. However, what happens as we're exposed to particular things over our lifetime and certain behaviors, like anxiety is one of them, if it's modeled to the child, then the child will grow up and either exhibit anxiety, panic attacks, and being a perfectionist. So if you're a parent and you're wondering, why is my kid so anal and things like that, you want to ask yourself, what were they exposed to? Were you very rigid with your parenting when you grew up because maybe that's what you were exposed to, right? So in our brain, we have the nervous systems. Okay, and part of, I'm going to say the lower level of one of the nervous systems is, because we have the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. So part of one nervous system is controlling your brain and your spinal cord. Like, that's it. Then the other side is all this other stuff. So in all this other stuff, or I'm going to say on the right side, because I'm so used to looking at a visual when I teach this in psychology class, is if we go all the way to the bottom of this graph, it will say autonomic nervous system. Autonomic sounds like automatic, right? So I'm sure that most of us have heard of the fight or flight response. So I'm going to explain this and tie it into anxiety, but fight or flight, you can't low-key tell your body what to do. It just does what it does, typically to react to the particular situation. Hopefully it would keep you out of harm's way, but I mean, I'm not going to do it in this episode on Facebook, but I've literally been in situations where my body froze and did not do what it was supposed to do, such as duck to the ground when something bad happened, right? So fight or flight response is your body actually responding to some stimuli, something outside of your body, and then it does something automatically. And so the reason I'm bringing that up is with anxiety, your body can also go into fight or flight response, even in a healthy anxiety-prone situation. So this is what healthy anxiety looks like. You're walking down the street. It's getting dark. You walk past a dark alley. Soon as you pass the dark alley, you start noticing that there's footsteps following you. So as you pay attention and you're more mindful to them, they get closer and faster and faster. So based off of your autonomic nervous system, meaning automatic reaction, what does your body typically do? You typically will run. Some people, depending on your personality, you may look back. Some of y'all might, if you're a lady, you might just start swinging your purse. You don't even know who behind you. They might have said your money fell out. But all you know is that it was dark, and you associate dark, walking past an alley, somebody walking fairly close to you and quickly as it's an attack. So your brain starts firing as this seems like a not cool situation, so protect yourself. In that essence, we need anxiety. We need your cortisol levels to be on point. That's linked to stress, by the way. But your cortisol levels need to be on point because your body needs to know how to respond in healthy situations. Like it needs to know when to duck, when to run. Some of us have an automatic response. So when someone swings, you like go like this. You probably didn't tell your body to do that until probably after, like, whoa, I was quick with my arms. But that's just what our body does. So on the flip side, there's the unhealthy anxiety. So the unhealthy anxiety in mental health is described as the general worry about everything. Okay. So some of the symptoms that you may experience even right now, or just in general, because some people just walk around just feeling anxious, right? With no trigger. The only trigger they got is in their head. So you may have uncontrollable worry, meaning you've said that you've tried to control it and it's not working. You may have poor concentration, excessive nervousness, increased heart rate like palpitations, sleep problems, whether you can't fall asleep or you wake up in the middle of the night, meaning you probably can't sleep for the full like 6 to 8 hours. You may have an upset stomach. You may have muscle tension, like you feeling stressed in different parts of your body. And also you have an avoidance of fear, meaning certain particular situations or stimuli may automatically trigger you to have a negative reaction. So let's get into the coping skills. So I'm going to share with you a cycle, and I'm going to call it the anxiety cycle, but it's the same cycle I actually use for anger management. So imagine a circle, and at the top of the circle, you want to be able to acknowledge what are your triggers to anxiety. So there are 2 types of triggers. Feel free to press pause, come back to this and write these down because these are really important. So whether you are experiencing anxiety or anger, you can apply this cycle to both. So at the top, you have internal and external triggers, right? So internal triggers are things that you're telling yourself, because this shows you that you do have a hand in your anxiety. A lot of times, especially right now, let's be real, people will say, this situation making me anxious. And I'm like, well, how are you thinking about this situation? Oh, well, I can't find housing. Well, you can go look for housing, because I'm sure homeowners don't want their spaces to be empty, because maybe, yeah, a lot of people don't want to move right now because maybe they did put in their 30-day notice, but they're leaving another unit, unrented. So as a owner, that person wants to rent out their space. We're not thinking about that though. We're just thinking about the fact that nobody wants to move, or the world is coming to an end. And that's not true. That's your perception of the world. So internal trigger is how you perceive the situation. External trigger are the things that are pumping you up to be anxious or angry or whatever feeling that you're having, external of you. So external would be the news, social media. If you, for example, have an iPhone, and I don't know if Android has this, I hope that they do, or you can probably set it up. iPhone, when the first week we were on lockdown, shelter in place, my screen time went up 2 hours. And I was like, heck no. But then I realized I do all my work on my phone and my computer now, so that would make sense. I'm constantly sending out emails, setting up meetings. I'm constantly on social media engaging with my audience because I can't see people live right now. A lot of things that I have for business got canceled. So that made sense, but I still looked at my pattern. So with internal and external triggers, you want to know internally, what am I doing to pump myself up more? Like, for example, externally, if the media says, oh, we're going to have another shelter in place in California until April 30th. Are you then telling yourself, I knew it, the world is going to end? That's internal. That's all you. Okay. So that's triggers. Now that you've recognized your triggers, now you want to go into physiological reactions, also known as bodily cues. So bodily or physiological reactions are, what is your body doing to tell you that you ain't feeling good right now? So physiological cues, if we think about anger, which is probably easier, anger would be some people start shaking their leg, right? And that might be the same for anxiety. Some people start crying. Some people, the difference in your tummy from and some people say, yeah, your screen time went up. Yeah. So some of us know the difference between the stomach when I'm about to get on stage and I got to speak in front of a lot of people, if those are more like butterflies, or you got to use a bathroom, TMI, like stomach ache, or you feel like something bad about to happen. Like if you pay attention and be mindful, I am sure you can determine what type of stomach situation you're having. Okay. So from there, once you identify the bodily cues, and let me just explain this, give a disclaimer. The reason why you may ask, like, well, it seems like bodily cues are triggers too, right, Dr. TK? And it is. But sometimes the thought process is overlooked. People don't want to spend energy trying to think about what are they doing to induce their anxiety? What are other people doing to induce their anxiety? But you do pay attention to possibly when your body's starting to shut down. So whether you missed the first one, you got the second one. The second one should tell you you now need to implement coping skills. So coping skills are things that help you calm down. So I'm going to introduce you to 3 coping skills that I believe a lot of people use, but they use it incorrectly. So the first coping strategy is deep breathing, not hyperventilating. So it would always crack me up when I worked with the adolescents when they would say, I am calming down, miss. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're actually inducing more of the feeling that you're trying to get away from. So you want to breathe in through your nose. So let's do it together. That was about 5 seconds. So you should do 3 of those in the morning. Also to check your respiratory. That's just what they've said, considering the circumstance that we're going through right now. And it also sends oxygen to your brain. And it allows if you've noticed, your heart rate slows down if it was up. Versus, right? We're not doing Lamaze class. Okay, and even then, they teach you nowadays how to be mindful and to breathe. When I was going through some serious pains when I was sitting in that hospital bed, about to give birth, you better believe I was visualizing, which is the third coping skill. I'll get to that. I was visualizing in my happy place, guided imagery, and taking a deep breath in and out through my mouth. Because heck, I can't control the baby coming. You know, he's gonna come. And so deep breathing is one. Another one is counting. So a lot of people say, oh, I count, it didn't work. Did you count to 10? Because that's probably why it didn't work. How long have you been counting to 10? Since you were like 2? 3, right? How long have you been counting from 10 to 1? Like backward? Oh, since like 4? Okay, so it doesn't create any mental effort. So the reason why some of your coping strategies aren't working is because it doesn't stimulate your brain to think. Okay, so if you're going to count, I would recommend that you choose any number over 65 and not an even number and not any 5s, and count back by 3s or 7s. So if I said, oh, you're going to count back by 67, now count back by 3s. So what I notice with my clients when I just have them practice it, and we don't count all the way to 0, but I can guarantee you once we get to like 50 something, what I've noticed is that their eyes will look up, and that means that they're searching for the next answer. That tells me that whatever they were angry or anxious about, their mind has now shifted from what they were nervous about or angry about to something safer. They might still be irritated because you can't remember the next number, but it's a safer situation versus you overthinking something you probably don't even have control over anyway, right? So we have deep breathing and we have counting. The third coping strategy is guided imagery. So guided imagery is you want to go to a happy place in your mind. Clearly do not do this while you're driving, but you want to visualize a happy place. Now, what's really important about a happy place is it could be a place that you've never been to before, that you've seen on TV. It could be one of those resorts, the pictures you see on Instagram, like, oh, I want to go stay in a hut off the beach and be able to walk out of my little hut and then be able to put my feet in some clear water, salt water, you know, where I can see turtles, you know. So what you're going to do is you're going to walk yourself through your 5 senses. Okay, the only thing that you may not be able to tap into is what you can taste, you know, unless you eat or something on the beach. But you should be able to talk about what you see, hear, smell, all those things, right? I'll go through all 5 senses. What that does is, again, you're becoming more mindful of what's happening in the moment, in the environment that you're in your head. So again, this is not good when you're driving. So why I'm giving you 3 different coping strategies to start with or refine the way that you were using them before is because there should be no reason as to why you say that I don't have anything to calm me down. That's not true. And imagine this, like as a therapist, I always tell my clients, my goal is to give you so many freaking tools that you can pull out a different one based off the situation. It's an invisible toolbox because not every single situation will work with a particular tool that you choose. So if you come back and say, oh, that didn't work, then I'm going to say, well, did you try another one? I gave you like 15 in the last like 3 months, you know? So coping strategies. So let me just recap. We had triggers, 2 types, internal and external trigger. We're going through an anxiety cycle. Then we have recognizing your physiological cues. Do you have heart palpitations? Are you sweating? Can you not concentrate? Is your stomach hurting? Then the third one is coping strategies. Now that you're calm, This is one of the most important ones. Now that you're calm because you've implemented a coping skill, now you want to make a positive affirmation, a positive self-statement. So if my clients can't think of one, honestly, I'll tell you, go on Pinterest and just type in positive affirmation. Plenty of them come up. You could probably go on Instagram and do a hashtag about positive affirmation, manifestation, abundance. Or you could just simply use this one, pain is temporary. And if you don't believe that, if you really feel like, no, Dr. TK, like this is different, I ain't never had no shelter in place, this feels different, blah, 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 then I'm gonna say, you know what, I bet you there was a point in time in your life, at any time in your past, that you probably thought that you weren't gonna get through it, and you clearly listening to me today. So that clearly tells me that the pain was temporary because you're still living, you're still listening to this video right now. So whatever you thought you couldn't get over then, clearly something happened and you got over it, you pushed through it, you're resilient, you bounce back. So why is it that you can't do that type of mindset with this situation, right? So if you ever get stuck, just reflect back on something you've already overcome and then look at how you can overcome this situation. Because odds are, if you look back, some of your past situations were way harder than this. I mean, what's the worst case scenario? You get to spend more time with your family? Let's see. You get to work on exercising in your living room? You get to spend quality time with your kids and realize like, oh shoot, this schoolwork is hard. I apologize. Parents, apologize to your kids if you've been getting on your kids about what you mean school is hard. Like you got a teacher because now you're their teacher and you feel that pain. And the teacher had 25 to 40 kids in their classroom. Hell, excuse my language, sorry. Heck, you only had one. Okay, so, or maybe two. So, give your kids a break. So after you've implemented a positive, sorry for my language, after you've implemented a positive affirmation, at that point, you now have to make a decision. Do you A, continue to think negatively? Or do you B, decide pain is temporary and I need to implement being happy, being in a positive mood and go a different route? What you can do to look at the different weighing of the options is ask yourself, what are the short-term and long-term consequences or rewards from the behavior? So let's look at A. If you choose to continue to ingest yourself into being worried all the time and not being positive to look at what can you get out of this situation, short-term consequences that you're gonna probably have a panic attack. You're gonna put yourself into a panic attack. It's called self-induced, okay? Long-term consequence is you're constantly gonna be worried and what's gonna happen? You're probably not gonna wanna eat or you're gonna eat more. You're gonna feel fatigued, you're gonna feel drained. You might even get yourself sick because when you're anxious, you are actually fighting against your body to keep your immune system strong, right? So you're not winning with A. Let's look at B. If I tell myself this pain is temporary, I've been through worse. I need to do some deep breathing. I got a backyard. They didn't quarantine my backyard. They didn't quarantine my porch. I can go to my porch, get some vitamin D. Short-term consequence, I'll get some sunlight. Long-term consequence, I'm focusing on what I can get out of this situation versus what I'm losing, and that makes me feel better. I have a positive mood. Which one we going with? Fatigue, panic attack? Positive mood, living vitamin D. I think we're gonna choose this one, right? So then you make a decision, and the goal is once you start going through this cycle, and listen to this video as many times as you need to, once you actually start walking yourself through this cycle, you'll start recognizing your pattern of which step you're missing. And odds are a lot of people are not recognizing your triggers, which is why you can't implement the right coping skill because you don't even know what's triggering you. This is how I know when my clients don't know what's triggering them. I'll ask them, well, what caused the panic attack? What happened right before? I don't know. And I'm like, well, slow down, let's think. I don't want to think about it. Well, we got to think about it because if not, it's going to repeat itself. So I hope that this has been helpful. Let me know if you're watching this live, if this has been helpful. I want to switch gears and just briefly give you some psychoeducation about how to take care of your physical body in addition to your mind, and then also something about parenting dyads with kids at home. So first, I'm looking down at my notes. Think about your body as a car, right? So I don't believe that any of us will get in an empty car, like empty on gas, because no one wants to get out in the middle of the intersection and push the car, right? So in order to get in your car, I would hope that if finances was good, your car would always stay on full. So why is it that you're allowing circumstances to deplete your gas tank, if that makes sense. So let me just tell you some things that are depleting your gas tank, because they will ultimately make your car break down, and your car is your body, okay? So, because some people do better with analogies. So things that will deplete your gas tank. Like over worrying. I do believe that there's a natural level of worrying that's going to happen in this season, because 50% of things are out of your control. It's in the government's control. But how I always tell my family, like, they may be in control of what happens with our amenities, with our housing complex, but they're not in control of what happens in this house. They're not in control of how much food I consume. Don't eat sugar as soon as you get up. If you have to drink coffee, for my coffee drinkers, if you have to drink caffeine, put something that has protein in your body before you have caffeine or sugar. A lot of adolescents, watch them. These kids will pop a cookie and then go do their homework. Not okay. The cookie should wait maybe to a break. What does sugar do? It tricks your brain into believing that you are full. And then what happens an hour and a half later, all of a sudden you're probably overly hungry because you skipped a meal. Apples are not conducive to a good morning breakfast because it's sugar and water. Save that for a later snack. Try a banana. It does have a lot of potassium, but eat a banana, eat a protein bar, eat some oatmeal, make a shake, actually cook breakfast. Okay, but you do want to eat something before you take in that coffee, for my coffee drinkers. Okay, so make sure that your gas tank stays on full. And part of your gas tank staying on full is that you take control of your mind. You have control over your brain. People sometimes say, Dr. TK, it feels like my back is against the wall. No, it's not. If your back is against the wall, if you can't go that way, guess what? You can go this way. There's always another way out. No excuses, hashtag. No excuses. Last thing, with parents who have specifically kids who are in high school, this is vitally important. So I have a small number of high school kids on my caseload. I've had a wide range of high school kids that I've worked with in different settings over the last 15 years. One thing that I believe that, from just talking to some teenagers over the last 2 weeks, that parents are not really understanding is, if I have any parents that are entrepreneurs, or you are a stay-at-home parent, or you work from home, the part about us not liking to work from home is actually have to create your own structure. This is how a lot of entrepreneurs end up going back to their 9 to 5. Even though they like the freedom, they cannot handle creating their own schedule. So I'm going to give you a different perspective, because we're literally, as parents, overlooking that our children have been structured, conditioned for 12 years if they're a senior or a junior. Okay, you're in high school, even elementary school kids, but elementary school kids' instruction is happening in front of the teacher on Zoom in a Google Classroom every other day or every day. High school kids are not getting that option. A lot of the high school teachers are doing office hours, meaning the kid has to have a question and they'll pop in, or they'll host a lecture for particular classes, not all classes, a couple of times a week, not every day. But your child has been conditioned to go to school every single day. They are provided a structure. They are not an entrepreneur unless your kid is just a little boss baby boss, okay? So for you to expect, and I'm sorry, I'm getting on my soapbox, but I apologize, but I literally just ended a session with an adolescent and I had to validate her. I said, girl, I'm gonna talk to your parent, right? Because, not saying that her parent did anything, but I just wanna shed light on parents not realizing what's happening. So you really expect for your child to go from a 9 to 5 type setting to coming home and creating their own structure with no guidance. Even if you're at home with them, they're used to a teacher telling them how to maneuver through the day. The bell rings, passing period, go to your locker and get your next book. Go to your next class. If you don't go to your next class by a particular time, you're going to a particular office for a tardy. Then you have maybe nutrition or homeroom. Then you have classes. Then you have a designated lunch period. Then school is over at 2:30. So if you're noticing that your kids are low-key doing work and it's not wrapping up to 4 or 5, please pay attention to your child's structure, because odds are they don't have any. They're kind of just going with the wind. So some of the tips that I've provided some of my adolescent clients is put on a timer, okay? A timer will help them navigate through the day. So if they know they have to do work for the whole week and turn it in by Friday or the following Monday, First, I want them to survey what work they have to do. Some work may create more mental effort. Some kids don't even understand their work. That's a whole nother situation. You need to reach out to the teacher, because I really hope that that's not the case. But for most kids, hopefully the teachers are accommodating them by giving them stuff that they can do at home to teach them to learn more information, but also they don't need to be in a physical classroom. But just please note, this is my biggest takeaway for parents. Your children are not baby entrepreneurs. This was sprung on them just like us to be at home and to do all of their work at home. I mean, if you look at a kid going to school every day, some of them still come home and complain, talking about they didn't get enough time in class to complete their work. The teacher just took the paper back. And we're talking about no structure. So please keep that in mind, even for little kids. You have to create the structure. Ask the school if they haven't given it to you, what is the bell schedule? Look it up on the website. And I'm not saying you need to do that every day, because another tip, and this will be my last tip, I promise, is give them a life skill to implement. Make them stop school at 1 or 2 o'clock. Have them start at 8 or 9, have a lunch break, have a nutrition, go to the bathroom, drink some water, switch topics. They don't have to do all the work in the same day for my little perfectionist, because that's also anxiety prone. But force them to stop. Because the bail to go home forces them to stop. You have to be their bail. So if you are out of the home and your child is at home doing the work by themselves, I would encourage you to check in with your child. Text them every couple of hours and just ask them, how is it going? They might think you're nagging, but so what? Because at the end of the day, they'll know that you cared and that you're not overlooking that this is a transition for them, especially the seniors. And the positive affirmation that I'm telling kids to say is, despite, yes, you may not be able to see your friends and hang out and go to school activities, but the positive thing is that because of technology, you will still be able to complete the school year. When I told one of my kids that, they were like, oh, that's a good way of looking at it. Because what could have happened is everything, including Zoom and online classroom, could have been shut down. And you would have been going to school in the summer, or you would have had to repeat it during the fall, and then you would have been out behind a whole year. Which would you prefer, A or B? And all the kids chose B. So I've given them a different perspective of how to look at school. So I hope this video has been helpful. If you're watching it live on Facebook, make sure to leave comments. If you have questions, I'll go back in and answer it. If you are watching via, I'm gonna upload it on YouTube, then feel free to leave me comments, leave a thumbs up, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Dr. TK, and let me know what other topics you may want to hear about. But I will be going live every week, at least for the month of April, talking about how to maneuver through these times and how to give you a different way of how to think. So let me know if you have any questions, and I will see everybody next week. Bye.